How are you, Hunter?
Good.
Hey. All right. How are you, Avery? So, we've got a teeny tiny little class today, so it's just me and Noah in the classroom. Hi, Noah. All right. So, in here, I knew that Olivia and Alexis are out, so poor Noah just has me in here today to give all my attention to. All right. So anyway, I hope everybody had a good break. Let's go ahead and kind of talk about what we need to make sure that we've got so far. And I just added the part to upload the test from, let me share my screen real quick, and then we'll make sure that we've got everything finished up and turned in so we can get ready and change gears. Start that. All right. PreAlgebra. All right. So let's see. The first thing that we had homework-wise that was turned in, I think was lesson 81. Go ahead and turn to page 180. Turn to page 180 in your book for just a minute. And for those of you that are out, that will be back either later this week, you can either up these, and what I'll do is I'll send an email so you can kind of see what goes page 180 and page 1 for February 1st homework, then that's what that was. And we started with our pit. So go ahead and get out that with perimeter and area of rectangles and squares and circles and all that good stuff. So we had that first page, our packet that was perimeter and area of rectangles and squares. So go ahead and on top if you've got it. So the top page, the one that starts with number 1, and then the second, completing the chart for perimeter and area. And then the next page, top, because that was basically the exact same thing we had done already on page 181. And then we worked with perimeter and area of parallelograms and rhombuses. And so that will be next page. So go ahead and flip that one over, and then we'll, so you got one missing. Do you know where it would be? It'd be in your bag or at home somewhere? On your desk. Okay, so we'll make sure that turn in on Thursday. And page 3 is going to be, it looks like there's another, it's the perimeter and area angles and trapezoids. This one. So it looks like and this one that we crossed out, and then the bottom of it had the parallelograms, And then this one that has the triangle and the trapezoid. So we're looking for those two shapes. Okay. All right, so our packet that's going to be due, and then the other, yeah. And then our test, actually, isn't it? Yeah, that's your test.
Oh.
Isn't it?
Miss Jennifer, I already uploaded my stuff, like to the homework.
Yes.
February 22nd.
Yes. Seen that. Have you uploaded your test?
Yeah, I uploaded every single.
Hey, have you uploaded your test?
Yeah.
Okay, because I think in that earlier when I looked, did you do it? Because I just added the tab for the test.
Yeah, I uploaded it like 3 or 4 days ago.
Perfect.
So yeah, I didn't put it in the test tab. Sorry.
Fine. Like I said, I just up to put the test. So let's see. Yeah, so I've got your notes. I've got worksheet pages. And I've got your test. Cool. Very good. All right. Tab for the test. So the main things that I'll need uploaded, if you haven't already, is going to be your packet and then your test. Okay. So any questions about that? All right. So today we're going to shift gears a little bit. It's going to be very similar, but a little bit different. We've been talking about our two-dimensional figures. Figures, it's about how, you know, they have sides that connect, and the connections are called the vertices, or are they connect at a vertex, or and so we talked about, and then we talked about how circles were different. Circles aren't made up of sides, but circles do still have an area, but instead of perimeter, they have circumference. Okay, so those were the things we looked at. Then we looked triangles, we talked about congruence and similarities and everything. So now we're going to start on page 197. Let me upload these pages real quick. I think I found them in my email. We're going to start. All right. Okay. See that now we're talking about solid geometry. Solid geometry, another way to call that or to describe that is a three-dimensional figure. So thinking about, you know, if we had any kind of something in a flat shape, 3 dimensions to it. Instead of just having a length and a width and a height, now we have a base and a width. You can either call it base and height or length or whatever, but key dimensions now to find what we call the volume of 3 things together. First is how these things. The first thing says a face is a polygon that forms a flat surface on a solid figure. So like, let's say with my phone, it being a kind of a rectangular figure, okay, if I didn't have my pop socket side. But so the face, the flat surface of my solid figure, okay, going to be what the face is. Now an edge is going to be when one side or one face connects to another, okay? So the edge is a line segment formed when I have a face and another side, okay? So a face and another face join to make that edge. The vertex on my phone is round on my corner, so that doesn't work, but actually my book would work. So I can use my book to talk about like this would be a face, but then they form that edge. Now I'll be the points, okay? I've got this face joining one and this one. So when I have three faces that join together, they join. So multiple faces on a solid form a vertex or a point. And so then a prism is a solid figure that has two congruent. Sorry, my she was a little messy. Okay. So a solid figure that congruent polygons as let's think about congruent parallel polygons. I want you to circle congruent parallel. What does congruent tell me? Does I remember what it means when I say congruent? You may remember. Congruent means same size, same shape. So go ahead and make yourself a note above where you circle size, same shape. They're going to be identical. They're going to be exactly the same. If I were to put one right on top of the other, that's what congruent means. Now, parallel. What does parallel mean? Do y'all remember about parallel lines, or doesn't have lines? Anything that is means that they're going to run exactly the same. So think about my tracks, but they're never going to touch. They're never going to intersect. Think about my railroad tracks that even as it curves and those sides are always going to be exact apart. So when we look at this picture of the book, we can see that my bases will be the top and bottom, and they're going to be parallel to one another. So basically they've got them. And so what I'll do is shade in, let me get a color. I'll kind of shade in. So what I'm talking is one parallel base. So that top and then the bottom. Okay. So basically I'm shading in this top part right. And then this down here. And congruent, okay? It says the base rectangles each egg and each leg edge. Good grief. I was trying to say leg and egg and everything. But my this a 1, 2. Five sides will be up on Washington. The reason it's called the pentagon is its shape as it's like a regular polygon. It has 5 sides. Pentagon. It's a 5-sided building that's exact same shape that our shape is here. Notice that because there are 5 space, then I'm going to have 5 rectangles that are joined my top pentagon, bottom pentagon. So, okay, and so on here I'll shade it a different way so we can see that I'm going to have 5 rectangles and join. Okay. Looking at those rectangles. Okay. The number of faces sides on a base. Okay, so in base it is 5 plus equals 7. I just said we have 5 rectangles, so we have to have a rectangle for each side, but then we have to count my base and my base. So I have those 5 rectangles and then 2 bases, and so 5 plus 2 is the number of is equal to 3 times the number of sides on a base. So let's go ahead and underline these real quick. Underline where it says the number of faces is equal to 2 more than the number of sides on a base. So faces equals, let's go ahead and come out and let's write faces equals bases plus 2. Faces equals bases plus 2. Now, sorry, let me miss that real quick. Equals sides plus 2. All right. Now let's jump down after it says in this case it is 5 plus equals 7. Now number of edges 3 times the number of sides on a base. So edges equals 3 times number of sides. Okay, so what I'm doing is equals sides plus 2. And then right here on edges equals 3 times number of sides. Last part, so it says in this case, 3 times 5, because we said we have 5 sides, 3. So 3 times 5 is 15. Vertices is 2 times the on a base. So underline the number of times the number of sides on the base. So we're equals 2 times, I'm going to use parentheses for times, for 2 times side sides on base. Okay. Faces, sides plus 2. 3 these sides times 2. Okay. To find faces, I take my and add 2. This number of sides multiply by 3. Vertices, number of sides multiply by. Okay. Of that is a polygon. I call it good night. CMP words and writing what comes to mind, or saying what comes to mind. A pyramid. A prism. A prism, remember, has 2. Look at our prism above and the pyramid below it. What is the main difference between these 2 figures? What does my pyramid not have that a prism does have? My prism had my 2 congruent bases. Notice my pyramid only have 1 polygon base. Okay, and then my sides are slanted and they all join at a vertex. All of my sides end up joining. So it says a pyramid is a solid with a single polygon as its base. A triangular face joins each edge and meets at a point to form the vertex. So let's think about the main things that are different here. My prism has 2 polygon bases. and the sides are joined with rectangles. Okay, 2 polyfaces, sides joined with rectangles. Here I have a single polygon base and my sides are triangles. They have triangular faces that join to meet and form a vertex. Okay, so here are my rules, or here are my things I need to remember about a pyramid. Is the number of faces is equal than the number of sides on the base. The number of faces is equal to 1 more than the number of sides on the base. So faces equals sides plus 1. So in this situation, we have a 4-sided base. It's a rectangle square. We don't know yet because we don't know the exact measurements, but we have a 4-sided base. So we just do 4 plus 1 is 5. So that gives me faces. The number of edges, next thing we're going to underline, the number of edges is equal to 2 times the number of sides on the base. So edges equals bases, or number of sides, so sides times 2. 2 times sides, number of sides. And then, so in this one, I have got 4 sides on my base. So I'll multiply that by 2. So that means I have 8 edges. 4 times 2 is 8. And then the last thing I need to underline is the number of vertices is equal to 1 more than the number of sides on the base. So this is going to be just like my faces. Faces and vertices will be the same, to where it's 1 more than the number of sides. Vertices will be sides plus 1. So in this case, add 1 to 4 and I get 5. All right. So let's look at number 1 in classwork. It says we have a prism with hexagons as bases. So look at that word hexagon. How many sides does a hexagon have?
6.
It has 6 sides, okay? So if I have hexagon bases and I know that I need to find the faces and the C plus what? Sides plus 6 plus 2. So how many faces have? I've got 8. All right, edges. All right, edges, I know that I multiply my number of sides times 3. So how many sides do I have? 6 times 3. I have. What's 6 times 3? 18. These will be 2 times the number of sides. So if I have 6 sides and I multiply by 2, 6 times 2 is, so I have 8 faces, I have 18 edges, and 12 vertices. Now let's look about a pyramid with a hexagon as its base. So we just did the prism with a hexagon, and we said that our prism has 2 bases. Now we have a hexagon base for our pyramid. So again, when you look at faces, we know that we're going to have sides plus 1. So we'll have 6 plus 1 equals 7. For my edges, edges is 2 times the number of sides. So that's 2 times 6 is 12. And we said the vertices are going equals 7. So 12 on that. And in turn, look at activity. Page 198 activity. So now sides on the number. First one. If I have 3 sides on a base and only have one base, what kind of figure am I talking about? Is it going to be a prism or pyramid? It's one base. It's going to be a pyramid, right? Okay. So when I've got a pyramid, to find the previous page, you can. That was going to be, for a pyramid, the number of sides on the base. So 3 faces would be 3, 1. So that'll be 4. Do with a pyramid to find the edges. They're going to be what? Times my sides, right? So I'm going to have 2 times my sides. There's 3 sides. 2 times 3 is 6. And then we said it was the same as, so I'm going to have 3 plus 1 is 4. Okay, so for faces we added 1, for edges we multiply by 2, for vertices we add 1. Now we have a sided base, 2 bases, 3-sided figure. What do we know it is? A 3-sided figure is going to be a triangle, right? So now we know what we're dealing with a triangle. First of all, it was a triangular pyramid. Now we're talking about a triangular prism. So we know each base is a triangle, okay? So again, let's think about what we've got to do to find faces, edges, and vertices. So look back on page 197 if you need to. The number of faces is equal to 2 more than the number of sides. So I know I'm going to have side plus 2. So how many faces? With 5. Now we're looking at the edges. The number of edges is equal to 3 times the number of sides. I have 3 times, and 3 times 3 is 9. And then for vertices, we said for vertices, the number of vertices is equal to 2 times the number of sides. So 2 times my number of sides, I have 3, and 2 times 3 is 6. So now that we've done the first 2, the rest of it will be for homework with 4-sided figures and 8-sided figures. Follow your patterns. For faces, are you adding 1, 2? For edges, are you multiplying by 2 or 3? For vertices, are you adding 1 or multiplying by 2? Okay. So be sure to details. All right, we're going to have to think way back several minutes to look. So let's review these for just a minute. For my first one, this one to me. End with a, okay, so divisible by 2. My rule for divisible by 3. Remember, I can add my numbers together. So let's look at, let's go ahead and work through these on the first one, on activities 3. 389, is it going to be divisible by 2? Is 389 going to be divisible? Not an even number. So I know it's not divisible by 2. To test for 3, I add my digits together. So I say 3 plus 8 is 11. 11 plus 9 is 20. 20 is not divisible by 3, so my number is not divisible by 3 either. Okay, 4. 4 was if my number, my last 2 digits either ended with 00, or if my last 2 digits were divisible by 4. My last 2 digits are 89. 4 will not divide evenly into 89, so that's out. What must a number end divisible by 5? It's either going to end with a 0 or a 5, and this ends with 9, not divisible by 5. 6, for it to be divisible by 6, by both 2 and 3. Divisible by 2, it's not by 3, so it's not divisible. 7 is one of the best. There's not a real number. 8. 9 is going to fall in if you add them up and divide by 9. But none of our divisibility rules, none of them are going to work for us. And so we're going to go ahead and label this as a prime number. It was not divisible by 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. So it is prime. Let's use our divisibility test to try 393. Is it? Nope. It's not divisible by 2. What is the sum of 3 plus 9 is 12 plus 3 is 15. It is by 3. So 93. 93 is not divisible by 4. 2 times 4 is 8, and it would be 13. 8 won't go into 13 evenly, so no. Remember, if it's divisible by 6, it has to be divisible by. We could. Five times 7 is 35. Then we've got 3 left over. 7 will go to 43. At least if 7's out. We try 8. 8 times 4 is 32. Then that leaves us with 73. 8 won't go into 73 either. So 8 is out. And let's try 9. We said that when the sum of our digits is 15, but it is not divisible by 9. So it is divisible by, it is going to be, so you can label it with a composite. 309 immediately is divisible by. Immediately is divisible by 5. So composite as well. Label it with a C. Okay. So I want to, or actually, let's just go ahead. 397. It's not even. When I add it together, 3 and 7 is 10, and 10 and 9 is 19. So if it's not divisible by 2 and 3, it's not divisible by 6. 7 is not divisible by 4, 0, or 5. We're going to label it as prime. So 397 is prime. 399. Not even, not divisible by 2. Let's try 3. I can see that we'll go into 399 and it will 133 times because we're going to 3 once, now our 3 are going to 9 3 times, 3 are going to 9 3 times. All I said out of 3 is going to be 12, 12, and 9 is 21, 29 is by 3. So 401, not together, 4 and 0 and 1 is 5, not divisible by 3. So it's not divisible by 2 and 3, so it's not divisible by 6. Doesn't 0, 4 won't go into 1, so 4 is out, doesn't go with a 5 or a 0. So it is prime as well. Okay. Now in activities 4, we're going to review and go way back prime factorization. Right, so remember with prime factorization, or we could do our ladder method, so it'll be easier to know what to see as well. So remember, when we dealt with prime factorization, and we said that we can either do factor trees, or we could do ladder method. Either way. And I told you guys that I like to always start with my smallest prime factor. So that means I'm always going to start with a 2. Remember, prime factors will be 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. Okay, so I'm trying to find the prime factors that multiply together to make this number. So I always try to start with my smallest prime factor. My smallest prime factor is 2. And I know 2 will go into 140 because it is even. So half of 140, 2 will go into 14 7 times. So 2 will go into 140 70 times. Since this is a prime factor, now I'm trying to break down 70. Again, I'm going to go through the same process. My smallest prime factor is 2. It will go into 70 because it is even. Half of 70, or 70 divided by 2, is 35. I'm leaving these guys alone because they're already prime factors, so I don't have to do anything with them. Can y'all see the board okay? All right, now I'm trying to break down 35. Not divisible by 2. I can test for 3. 5 and 3 is 8. 8 is not divisible by 3, so that doesn't work. So I've tried 2, I've tried 3. Let's go 5. It ends with 5, so I know 5 will go into 35 7 times. And these are prime factors. So the prime factorization for 140 is 2 times 2 times 5 times 7. Now remember, when I have a repeating factor, I can write that as 2 squared times 5 times 7. So that's going to be the simplest way to write that. Again, with the ladder, I'm doing the same thing. 2 will go into 140 70 times. 2 will go into 70 35 times. 5 will go into 35 7 times. So I'm going to get the same answer either method that I use to find my prime factorization. Okay, so let's look at the next one. 144. What is going to be my smallest prime factor of 144? 2. I'm going to go ladder. And 2 will go into 144. So basically I'm saying, what is half of 44? Well, 2 will go into 14 7 times, and 2 will go into 4 2 times. So I know that will be 72. Because 2 will go into 14 7 times, 2 will go into 4 2 times. And again, smallest prime factor, 2. 2 will go into 71. 72. Half of 72 is going to be 36. Try smallest prime factor again. 2 will go into 36. 18 times. 2 will go into 18. 9 times. Now 2 won't go into 9, but 3 will. 3 times. So now I have 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3, or I can write that with exponents, and I have 2 to the 1, 2, 3, 4th power times 3 squared. Okay, so I'll put those real quick on here so y'all can see this. So I said 140, we said 2 would go 70 times. 2 would go 35, and 5 and 7. So we have 2 squared times 5 times 7. And then for 144, 2 will go in 72 times. 2 will go into 36, and 2 will go 36 times. 2 will go 18. 2 we'll go 9, which is 3 times 3. So we have 2 to the 4th times 3 squared. All righty, 147. Okay, I'm gonna erase this up here. 147. I'll have to think about this one a little bit. Not divisible by 2, so I'm gonna try 3. 7 plus 4 is gonna give me 11. 11 plus 1 is 12. So is it divisible by 3? It is. So I'm starting with 147 and dividing it by 3. So I'm just going to go 3 will go into 14 4 times. 4 times 3 is 12. 14 minus 2 is 2. I compare. This is smaller than this one, so that means I can bring down my 7. 3 will go into 27 9 times, and 9 times 3 is 27. So 3 will go in 49 times. Hopefully you'll start kind of seeing numbers and you'll know immediately, hey, 49, I know is 7 times 7. So I don't even have to test any other numbers. I don't even have to think about 3 or 5 or anything else. I can go ahead and see those primes. So I'm going to have 3 times 7 squared will be my prime factorization for that one. So 147, 3, 49, 7, and 7. So 3 times 7 squared. All right, little review on prime factorization. Just remember, prime numbers are numbers that are not divisible by any other number other than 1 in itself. So that means my smallest prime factor is 2. So I have 2, then 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, and then they keep going from there, okay? But usually when I'm dealing with prime factorization, I'm going to be within these numbers here. Usually I'm not even really going to go higher than 7, usually. Now, sometimes I may see 11, 13, maybe 19, but it's not going to be often, okay? All right. Our next step is permutations and combinations. So we're going to go ahead and set activities 5 and 6 for homework. You will need to look back at permutations and combinations. Look to see the formulas. N factorial over n minus r factorial, or think about the difference between permutations and combinations. Then we had to involve k factorial also. So look back. And activity 6 says draw a picture and solve. What is the height of a trapezoid if the bases are 4.5 inches long and 7.5 inches, and the area is 45 inches squared? So first of all, Noah, the picture that I have on the screen, I've already drawn the picture. So let's go ahead and draw the picture here. So it says I'm drawing a trapezoid. So I know that I've got parallel faces. And I know that usually I've got one side that's going to come down, and then another side will be like that. Okay, so not perfect, but okay. So I've got my parallels, and then my slanted side, another slanted side. So it says that my bases are 4.5 inches and 7.5 inches. Okay. And the area equals 45 inches squared. All right. Remember, height is going to be that slanted. We'll go ahead and take a break, and we'll come back and pick up with this. Okay, so go ahead and take a break. All righty. All righty, so let's look back at this problem they gave us and said we have a trapezoid. So we know a trapezoid has two parallel sides, and it says the bases are 4.5 inches and 7.5 inches, and the area is 45 square inches. Okay, so let's think about for a minute about what our formula for the area of a trapezoid is. Area is equal to, so you might remember this formula, we just had our test on it. Area equals 1/2 of base 1 plus base 2 times the height. Okay, so we know our formula here. We know what the area is. They told us that the area is 45 inches squared. Okay, so I plug in what I know. I'm putting 45 in for A. 1/2 is part of my formula, so I put that in. Base 1 is 4.5 plus base 2, whoops, I'm going to put B. Base 2 is 7.5. We don't know the height. That's what we need to solve for. So I plugged in everything that I know that they told me. The area is 45 inches square. I know that my formula just has this 1/2 in it. So I've got to have that. I know that base 1 and base 2, 4.5 and 7.5, and I'm trying to solve for H. So now what I've got to do is I've got to go ahead and work as much as I can. So what is 4.5 plus 7.5? Well, I know 1/2 and 1/2 makes 1, right? And 7 and 4 is 11. So 11 and 1 is 12. So I have 1/2 times 12 times H. Okay. My next step, I'm going to take 45 is equal to, what is half of 12? Half of 12 is going to be 6. So I'm going to have 6 times H. Now, if I'm trying to solve for H, remember these two are together using multiplication. If I do not have a sign in between a number and a variable, I understand it to be multiplication. So this is like saying 6 times H. Well, to undo multiplication, I divide. And since I'm trying to solve for H, I'm dividing by 6. So now I know that those cancel out, so I'm left with just H. So I have H is equal to 45 over 6. Well, I know 6 won't go into 45 evenly, so I'm going to write this as a mixed number. And I know that 6 will go into 45 7 times. And 7 times 6 is 42. 45 minus 42 is 3. So 7 and 3, 6, which would simplify to 7.5. Okay. I have to make the right location of the I add these two together, then take half of it, and I start working down to be able to solve for my unknown, okay? So that's going to be a lot of what we do in algebra. We do a lot of that more in algebra where we have some known information and we solve for what we don't know. Okay. So 45 is equal to 6, divided by 6. H is equal to 1/2. Any questions on that? Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and turn to lesson 91. So page 198, right now your homework is just the permutations and combinations. Flip back, look, let's see, we'll go ahead and look and see what lesson says. 76, if you want to make yourself a note, it's going to be on page 167. So I'll put page 160, and then combinations are on page 169. So you will want to look at those formulas on pages 169 to do your permutations and combinations. All right. So we've been talking a lot about our formulas. We've been talking about how I use formulas to find information. And so now we're also going to be looking at our next, let's see, this is going to be lesson 91. So let's go to lesson 91, dealing more with prisms. Okay, so in lesson 90, we talked about types of solid geometry terms. We talked about a prism and we talked about a pyramid. Now we're going to talk more about prisms in lesson 91. Okay, we've already found how to find faces and edges and vertices. But now we're going to be looking at a formula called volume. So we've looked at the area of different things. We've looked at perimeter, and those are all of two-dimensional figures. Now we're going to look at three-dimensional figures. And when I have a three-dimensional figure, I talk about volume. So a lot of times when I think about volume, y'all know I always have my bubble cup with me. So when we talk about volume, it's how much I can fit inside of it. So like when I fill up my water, how much water could fit in here? Well, obviously I can't do a really easy calculation because it's round and part of it's smaller and wider and whatever. But with our prisms here on page 201, I can see that when I've got my formula for a prism, I've got my bases. Remember, we talked about how we have two polygons that are parallel. They're congruent parallel polygons. And we have our sides, okay? So when we talk about volume, we have to do a couple of calculations, okay? And the first thing when I'm talking about volume, my first one is volume V equals capital B lowercase h. So at the top of page 201, it says, recall from lesson 90 that a prism is a solid figure that has two congruent parallel polygons as bases. The bases are joined by rectangles at each edge. Why am I having trouble with that? To find the volume of a prism, use the formula V equals capital BH. Now notice when we did area and we said area was base times height, that was a lowercase b and a lowercase h. This time we have a capital B. And that's because we have a calculation that makes up that capital B. So it says capital B is the area of the base and the height is the area of the base and H is the height of the prism. So V means volume. Capital B is the area of the base and H is the height. Okay, so this right here, my area of the base. Now I am going to have to go back to my previous section on geometry and finding the area. We did area formulas. So depending on what the shape of my figure is, Maybe I'm having to do base times height. Maybe depending on what I'm having to do. Okay, so just know that that capital B is for the area of the base, not just a measurement. I have to calculate the area. And remember, in this situation, A equals little bh. So area equals base times height. Okay, so if we look at the volume of the prism shown. All right, and one of the things to mention, it says volume is expressed in cubic units. Okay, go ahead and underline that. Volume is expressed in cubic units. For metric measurements, the exponent is 3. So if we had centimeters cubed, so instead of having like squared, that was to find area, when we're multiplying 3 things together, it's going to be cubic units, because remember, I've already multiplied 2 things together here. So I have little b h times h. Okay, so I'm multiplying 3 things together. So let's look at the polygon that or the prism that we've got made up of 2 pentagon bases. It says find the volume of the prism pictured below. Volume equals capital B lowercase h. Notice in what they've told us in the figure. Look at the bottom, and it says the area is equal to 5 3/4. Now, y'all know that one of my least favorite things about this book is a lot of times they're going to throw in fractions, and y'all are even going to see some of the square root problems. Oh, okay, I've got everybody. I thought I lost somebody. Okay, so y'all may see examples where we have fractions and square roots. So we want to make sure that we know what to do with those. All right, so it says V is equal to capital BH. In this example, they've told us that B, in this example, they've said that B is equal to 5 3/4, because they said that was the area. Okay, and then it also tells me that my height is equal to 6. So all I'm going to do is plug them in. So I'm going to say V is equal to 5 3/4 times 6. Now, we have to think about multiplying fractions. When I multiply fractions, if I have a mixed number, the first thing I need to do is I need to change to improper fractions. So this 5 3/4, I need to turn into an improper fraction, and I have to do denominator times whole number plus numerator. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 plus 3 is 23/4. Okay, so I changed my mixed number to an improper fraction. Now I need to multiply by 6. Remember, 6 as a whole number is the same as 6/1. When I am multiplying fractions, the first thing I want to do is I want to look and see is there anything in the numerator that will simplify with anything in the denominator. And I can see here that when I've got that 4 and 6, both of those are divisible by 2. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So I'm able to simplify those numbers. So now when I multiply, it makes it a little bit easier. And 23 times 3, 3 times 3 is 9. 2 times 3 is 6. Over 2 times 1 is 2. So I have 69/2. So now I'm going to go ahead and say 2 will go into 69. 34 times, that's going to be 68. I'd have 1 left over. So 34.5. Now remember, I need to have this as cubic units or units cubed. Okay? So they told me what the big B was equal to in this problem. If I did not know what it was, but they told me on the bottom what the measurements would have to be, I would have to find the area first, then plug it in for the B. So let's go ahead and take a look at our cube underneath it. It says a cube is a prism whose length, width, and height are equal and have 6 square faces. To find the volume of a cube, you can use the formula V equals E cubed, where E is the length of an edge. Okay, so for our cube, we just have E cubed. Each edge is 5. 5 cubed. Remember, 5 cubed does not mean 5 times 3. 5 cubed means 5 times 5 times 5. So 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 5 is 125. So that's where they got 125 cubic units. Okay. Let's go ahead and look at classwork 1 on page 201. Classwork 1, we have a rectangular prism. And I'm going to go ahead and leave that up there. All right, we have a rectangular prism. So let's look at, remember that we've got to look at our bases to find this capital B here. I do not know the volume. That's what I've got to solve for. But I also have to solve for B first before I can plug in V equals B times H. Okay. To be able to get my capital B here, I'm going to have to do some work here. So when I look at my figure, and I'll try to draw it out real quick and see if I can. Not real good at this, but I'll do my best. All right, close enough. You get the gist. All right, so basically, they said down here is 4, this is 2, and this is 7. Okay. So I'm looking at 4 and 2 and 7. The first thing I've got to do to find capital B is I've got to find the area of my base. So remember, area is going to be base times height or length times width. So 4 times 2 is going to be 8. So area equals base times height, area equals 2 times 4, area equals 8. So I know this is what I've got to do to solve for my capital B. So I know that capital B is equal to 8. So now I can look and see my height is going to be 7. So I'm going to have V is equal to 8 times 7, and 7 times 8 is 56. And I will just say, it doesn't give me a measurement, does it? Nope. It doesn't give me a unit of measurement to use, so I just use the generic units. So I'm going to have 8 times 7, that's 56, 56 units cubed. Okay, so remember, to find that capital B, I had to find the area of the base first, and plug that in to my formula. All right. Now look at what we got. Okay, in activities 2, it says to find the volume. All measurements are given in meters. So again, V equals BH. Erase this. Notice I've got a right triangle. This is my dotted side. And then go here to here. And then in here. Oh. This one is not turning out well, guys. I guess I just did a little too long. We'll shorten it a little bit. maybe that's, anyway. All right. We said, oh, I guess what I'm doing is I'm missing, oh, this one, I think I don't know. Oh, well, let's see if it's a right angle. Okay, so we've got 4, 3, 5. I can see that my base in the picture in the book, I can see better that the base is going to be a rectangle, okay? So to find the area of the rectangle, the first thing I've got to do is find B, which is my area equals little b times h. So that's going to be my 3 times 5. Area equals 3 times 5. So that's going to be 15. Okay, so now I know that B is 15. So V equals 15 times H is 4. So I first had to find the area of my base. Now I have to multiply by the height. And 15 times 4, 5 times 4 is 20. And 4 times 1 is 4. So I'm going to have 60 units cubed. So we said I've got to find the area here. So area equals 5 times 3, which equals 15. So I'm going to put 15 for B, for H. So it'll be 60. Oh, and it says to use math. So it's going to be 60 meters cubed. So I'll fix that right here. And I can just put meters cubed. Any questions? What did I do wrong on? I treated that as I'm not. Look at our figure. What, I mean, I treated it like a pyramid, not a prism. But think about what are my bases in this figure? Drawing it messed me up, drawing it on the board instead of looking at it in the book. Remember, my base are going. So it's not my rectangles. It's not my rectangles that are sides. What are my actual? My bases are triangles. So I take into account here, I should have been using base times height here for my triangle. Base of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. So I should have 1 times 3 times. So that's going to be 1 times 4, half of 12, which is 6. So I messed that up big. I was just scooting right on. I'm not doing well going back and forth between book and iPad. So on that one, as our triangle bases, I looked at that as a triangle to the bases. So my area of my base is 1 base times height. So that should be times 4, which is 12, and half of that is 6. So I should have area, which is 6 times height is 5. It should be 30, not 60. So 30 meters cubed. Make that correct. I wasn't paying attention. I was right on that little rectangle there. And so let's fix this. We said this needs to be. I even had it in my notes over there, but I just didn't have it stretched. So it is 1/2 base times height. So we had 1/2, 3, 4, which is 1 times 12 equals 6. times 5 is 30 meters cubed. All righty. Let's go ahead on page 202. Page 2, activities 3. Now on here, notice it says the base of the prism on the left-hand column. It tells us what its measurements are. The first thing we've got to do is find the area of this. Okay, so what we're going to do there is we've got a rectangular base. And so it says that it's 1/3 and 1/4. So we're going to be my length width or my base height. So I know to find capital B, that means I have to find the area of the base. In this situation, I'm going to have area equals 3 1/3 times 1 3/4. So remember, when I multiply, first thing I've got to do is improper, then multiply numerator by numerator, denominator by denominator. So I have to turn 3 1/3, 3 is 9, plus 1 10 over 3 times 1 is 4, is 7 over 4. Again, I can see that I can simplify 1 and 4. And actually, if you the parentheses, you can always write again. But it's better for simplifying. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So that means 5 times 5 over 3 times 2 is. I'm going to go ahead and leave my area 35 over 6. Well, actually, we'll go ahead and simplify it just for the purpose of, but then we're going to need to use this improper fraction to find the volume of the base. Okay, so I could simplify that. That would be 5 and 5/6. But now I'm going to use this area right here as an impression for the volume of the prism, because now this is B. So I know I can use this as B equals 35 over 6 times, they've told me height is 2 2/5. So now again, I've got to turn that into an improper fraction. 35 plus 2 is 10. 10 plus 2 is 12. 5. If I can simplify, I want to do that before I multiply, easier. 6 divided by 6 is 1. 12 divided by 6 is 2. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 35 divided by 5 is 7. I have 7 times 2, 14, and 1 is 1, so I don't even have to have a denominator of 1. So I can see that my volume is going to be 14 inches cubed. Up here, this was area would have been inches squared. Okay. So the first thing I had to do was find the area of my base. The second thing I had to do was to multiply by the height it gave me to find the volume of my prism. Okay. Let's look at the third one down with the triangle. Okay, let's look at the third one down with the triangle. What is the formula for the area of a triangle? Area equals 1/2 base times height. So to find my area of base, fortunately, they have some radicals here. They've given us to deal with of those. So the first thing we have to do is find the area of my base. Since I'm dealing with a triangle, I have area 1/2 base times height. In triangle, notice that my base, I have 2, the square root of 2 feet, and 4 times 2 feet. Add those together. Let me go ahead and draw it right here. So 2 times 2 times the square root of 2, and they made my height 3 times the square root of 2. So when I'm trying to put this base down here, I've got to make sure to add 2 plus 4. When I add this together, 2 plus 4 is 6. And then I keep the square root of 2. When I'm adding radicals, keep the radical the same and add the numbers in front. Okay? So now I'm going to have area equals 1/2 times base, 6 times 2 times is times the square root of. Think about how to do with radical. Area equals 1/2. Multiply my number in front, 6 times 3 is 18. And then I've got the square root of 2 times the square root of 2. So I can put those under the same radical. So I've just done 6 times 18, 2 times the square root of 2, the radical. So that means area equals 1/2 times the square root of 4. Aha, the square root of 4. No, that because I've got 2 times 200 here, I've got my 2 buttons. The square root of 4 is 2. Area equals 1/2. Whoops. Times 2. So 1/2 of 18 is 9. 2 is 18. So I have 8 feet. My big B. So now I found B. So if I have B is 2, B with 18 times height. Again, going to be 3 times the square root of 2. Volume is equal to 18 times 3 is going to be 54. Because 8 times 3 is 24. I'd put down my 4, carry my 2. 3 times 1 is 3 plus 2 is 5. So I'd have 54 times the square root of 2 with 8 cubed. So there is my volume. Here is my base is 18 squared. And then volume is 54 times 2 feet. Okay. We've done the first one and the for homework, your second one. So we've just got a square there, base times height, or side times side do. So you'll find the area of the base. Then you're going to multiply. Oh, they gave me, hold up. I use that one again.
Miss Jennifer.
This the square root of 5.
Miss Jennifer.
Yes,
Could you write it on the iPad? Because you're kind of glitching.
I will.
And it's
Alice, so it's easier. Let's see what I did with my stylus. All righty. So for that first one, we said to find the area of the base times height. So I'm going to 3/3 times 1 3/4. So I need to do 10/3 times 7/4. We said these would reduce and have 35/6, which ends up being 5 5/6 that'll be inches squared. Now I need to take and multiply. So I'm going to 5/6 times 2 2/5. I need to do improper fractions. 6 times 5 is 30. 5 is 35 times 5 times 2 plus 2 5. So that'll be a 1. That'll be a 1. That'll be a 2. 7 times 2 is over 1. So I have inches. The next one.
Wait, so the volume of the prism is what? Like the 14
inches cubed.
Oh, 14 inches cubed. Okay.
Sorry, 14 inches cubed.
Hey, should we need whites?
I think we've got some, but I think somebody had gotten them somewhere. Alrighty. So then this one will be similar to what, and then the third one we're doing the triangle. Area of a area equals 1 base times height. So in this situation, we at this base here, I 2 times the square root of 2, 4 times the square root of 2, and 6 times the square root of 2 feet. Okay, so that means I'm going to have equals 1 times the square root of 2 times the height, which is 3 square root of 2. This means the area is 1/2. 3 is 18. Have the square root of 2 times 2. So it equals 1/2 18 times 2. So area equals half is 18. So we have 18 feet squared on this. So now once I have a final, I've got to it by the volume. So I'm going to have 18 squared times the square root of 5 feet. And so I multiply 18 times 3 is 54 times the square of feet squared. So that is going to be volume. So let's go ahead and look at our formula. Fourth one down is kilogram. Remember, that's going to be times height. That area equals base. But is a trapezoid, so it equals 1/2 1 plus b2 h. So the to do is find the area, and when I find that number, I will multiply by of the prism that they have given me to solve. Okay, so your homework will be the fourth one, fifth one, using those.
Wait, Miss Jennifer, you just glitched out a little
So
bit.
we will get ready and
You glitched out a little.
so did you? So okay. Did you see that for this, we're going to be doing area times height for the second?
Yeah. So
And
which
then
one?
when I
Which one
answer,
are we doing for homework?
we're going to do
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
2 and 5. So you'll do base time on numbers 2 and 4, but for number 5, you're going to have to do 1/2 base 1 plus base 2. Then to prism volume, we've got to multiply area times the height. Okay. So we said our other going to be page, what is this, page 8, activity 198, activity stations and combinations, And then we have page 2, activities, square, the prism, and the trapezoid. If y'all have this before Thursday, let me know. If y'all haven't had work, you can do that at Thursday if you're going to be you. Questions between now and then, be sure to let me know. All right, I will on Thursday.
Bye.
Bye.